Okay, Alexandra, I'm gonna send you the link now. Okay, we are live and I shared the link and now we're gonna wait for 5 minutes.
Oh, sorry. Can I just ask one thing?
Yeah, sure.
How do you pronounce your project space?
Salonul de proiecte.
Salon?
Salonul.
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 Salonul. Okay.
Sounds funny, right?
No, it sounds very nice, but it's yeah, Salonul de proiecte. Something like this.
Proiecte.
No. Proiecte. I can say this.
Yes.
Salonul de proiecte. Okay. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So have you done many online presentations since the spring or?
No, I've done one presentation, but I also did some teaching. Yeah.
And you adjusted well to the new situation, or?
I don't know. Somehow it's very comfortable because it's. I don't. Yeah, it's there is this distance, but so I feel like it somehow doesn't feel real in a way. It feels like I'm just at home, and so it's maybe more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's yeah, so I think it's I think it works. I think it's okay, and I think that it's not always easy to get people to come to your talks or like come to your show. I mean, come to your space if it's like not at the opening, but it's like an extra that is part of your show. So I think it's like it could also be easier to get people to hear you or to follow the talk. So
what do you teach?
The teaching.
Alexandra, maybe it's better to ask the questions after the talk, because I mean people are watching, so
okay.
maybe they get confused Yeah, sorry.
Right, so
It's a professional question.
It is, but you can put it afterwards if you don't mind. So, Linn, now I'm going to make you the host.
Okay.
Okay. And
Okay.
then, Magda, you can start.
Okay.
good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us at this artist talk held by Linn Pedersen. My name is Magda Radu, and together with Ștefan Sava and Alexandra Croitor, we are running the independent art space, Salonul de Proiecte in Bucharest. Linn's presence here is linked to our long-term research and curatorial project, which aims to preserve and promote the image collection, Mihai Oroveanu. We have a website dedicated to this project, photopasfuture.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, on Instagram. It is important to say that Linn's intervention within the current exhibition at Salonul de Proiecte has resulted from a collaboration between our institution and Fotogalerit Oslo, which is our partner in this project. And throughout our exhibitions with the archive, we intend to invite artists, contemporary artists, who are willing to engage with photographic images from the archive and are interested to produce new works. So Linn's intervention is now on view in our space at Salonul de Proiecte and is integrated into our current exhibitions, to our current exhibition, which showcases many photographs from the Mihai Oroveanu image collection. And we invite you to come to our space and see her piece, which we'll later talk about. But now I would like to introduce Linn. She's an artist, a photographer, a sculptor based in Sortland in Norway. She holds an MA from the Central St. Martin's College of Arts and Design in London, but she also studied at the Faculty of Fine Art in Bergen. Linn has exhibited in many group exhibitions and was also involved in solo exhibitions, including Captain's Cabin at Melk in Oslo, and also among others in an exhibition at Entre Bergen. I am very curious to learn more about how Linn approaches photography, the act of producing and post-producing her pieces, as well as her involvement with archival images, which are linked, of course, to analog techniques. So I am more than excited to hear about Linn's wide-ranging practice. And Linn, you have the floor. Thank you for accepting to be part of our endeavor, and we are extremely happy and honored to be able to present your work.
Thank you so much, Magda. And thank you also much for inviting me to this for this project and for letting me see the archive of Mihai Oroveanu, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, which has been really a joy just to see the images. And of course, I didn't work with every image, but I've seen everything you sent me. I've had great joy in looking through. So I was thinking of just showing you all some works of mine, since I think I'm going to go back till 2015. And and start with some projects there and how they have developed through the years and how I've kind of ended up where I am now, and also how this has influenced the work that I'm doing now at your project space. So if, okay, let's see. Because I need to share the screen now, right? I'm just gonna. I'm just gonna find the file so that it's ready when it. Okay. Am I sharing my screen now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So let's see. Okay, so I'm going to start with a show that I did in 2015. It was a solo show I did in Kristiansand, a city in the south of Norway, where I also used to live. I'm just gonna maybe show you all. Okay, so now you all see just a big screen of the image, right? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so this was a solo show in Kristiansand Kunsthall. And I guess I did a project, one project before this, but this is when I started to work with this cyanotype technique. So my education is from Bergen and London. And in Bergen, I did I specialized in photography. And I bought my first and only camera, which I'm still using, which is a Mamiya 7.2. So I work with analog 120 film. So this has always been kind of in the center of my work, is always photography, even though I also work with sculpture and installations. So the photographies, they kind of come first in a way. And for this show, I was very interested in working with cyanotype because I discovered the cyanotypes of the British. Well, she's kind of an artist in my eyes, but she's a botanic, Anna Atkins. And she is like one of the pioneers in early photography. And she did the first book that was illustrated with photographs called the British algae. And I was very interested in this book and her work and how she kind of used the garden as her studio. So I kind of was very inspired by this and kind of took this technique and mixed it together with my medium format photography, and also together with my sculptures. So now I started at the end of so I'm gonna show you this. So this is how I work with in the room and with installations. The show was called in Norwegian. It was called Frokost I det grønne, which is the same title, but I couldn't find it in English, and my French is really bad. But it's a Manet painting. I think it's Luncheon on the Grass. It's like so it has this kind of airy outdoor garden feeling to it, with this garden or like picnic chairs in these installations. So this was kind of the biggest show I did where the cyanotypes were really in the center. So the cyanotypes were made with this, not with negatives, but I made it with very thin plastic bags made for kind of putting in your lunch or your breads. So it's kind of just different shapes of this everyday material, which is kind of also my black and white photographs is also kind of, they're all everyday objects, and they're kind of very, it's like something you see every day. But in my photographs and the way that I show them, they kind of look animated in a way, so that they kind of look somehow alive. I always think it's kind of funny if you have an object and you feel like the object is looking at you instead of the other way around. So I did not maybe put in too much of the, yeah, now you see the close-ups. So these are the cyanotypes with the lunch bags. The cyanotypes were called, the whole series is called stratus, which is like the shape of certain clouds. So they all were like numbered in stratus. Mixed together with my black and white medium format photography. Which has a lot like dwellings somehow, like in different shapes, like a sandcastle or like a tent. But it's like very often places that are like potentially, you know, places you can stay or live or. So this show was a big solo presentation for me, and it kind of, my work after this developed quite a bit. So from this show, I did, like you said, I had a show at Entré Bergen, and I kind of developed the idea for this show. So I'm just going to show you very quickly how this was called plein air. So it's like the free door painting in a way, but has also this sculpture is called sculpture tights, which actually these tights also are called because you can like sculpture your body in a way. But so I did these two solo shows quite at the same time, but with different sculpture elements. And so after this show, I started working together with some colleagues of mine because, like I said, I lived in Kristiansand, which is a small, well, it's not as small as the city I'm living in now, but quite small city in the south of Norway. And we moved from Berlin, where we lived for some years. And we, together, me and 4 other colleagues, we made this sculpture park in the area where I lived. There was this botanical garden. And for this park, I built a studio. So this has been one of my main projects the last years was this. It's called pupillen, which is translated by a pupil, which is like your eye. So I made a drawing. I have a friend who's an architect, so she helped me translate my not so good drawings and ideas to technical drawings. I had a carpenter who helped me build this. The idea for me was to build a garden studio that was a sculpture, that was also a camera. So this is the inside, which we could have maybe shown. This is the door. So there you have my timer by the door. So it was almost completely black. It was like a chamber, which is like the camera obscura is a chamber. So it was actually a huge Polaroid camera. So this is where you have the eye, which is more like the sculptural part of it. On the one side of the wall, I had a lens. So I made photos with this sculpture. So the inside of the sculpture was my lab, and I did use positive prints. And I worked there for a year doing different projects. But the thing is that it was also my working place, my studio for a year, but it was also a sculpture that was as itself a sculpture, and it was also my camera.
Linn, Linn, the wood is burnt, right?
Yes.
How come you
Well, this is
yeah.
Yeah, the wood is burnt, so it's this old Japanese technique, and it's also been used like in the north of Norway where I come from, but also I think many parts of Norway and also in the world they use this technique in building, by the sea where you have the, what do you call it, in harbors, like the big piles that are standing down in the salty sea, So it's like a technique they've seen that it's like a tradition where I come from, but also like we use the Japanese technique. So this was mainly I wanted the camera to be, or the sculpture, the studio to be black, like my camera. So it was kind of, it needed to have this camera chamber feeling. But I was also, the thing is with this technique is that you don't have to do any painting, or it doesn't kind of fade in a way. It will stay like this. So this is something that I did together with the carpenter, which was also great fun, to learn this technique, but also that it's an art piece. So it's kind of you always need to bring in something, what can I say, handmade. I could have just painted it, but it's like you work with aesthetics, you work with, it's kind of just a way of doing some detailing in the construction in a way, because it was supposed to be also a big, clumsy, but beautiful sculpture. So, and it's also kind of, it's the shape of the camera was inspired by it's a German architect called Thilo Schoder, and he lived in the south of Norway, in this area before and during the war. And he did some really nice houses in our neighborhood, and he's known for the round windows, and so that's the inspiration that I took. There is some of his most beautiful houses is just very close to this beautiful park. So so it had a lot of elements from the area and the houses around. Yeah. Yeah, so this was the inside before I started to really mess things up with the chemicals. And the thing is that this was done. It was finished in April 2016, I guess. And then I worked there until June or something. And then every summer we go up north where I'm from. So when I got back down and I had some shows, and so the thing was that when I finally, you know, kind of developed the project, you know, it takes some time, you know, to get to, you know, when you start working in a new space or just if you move around, it always takes some while. It takes a while before you kind of get warm and you know, you manage to get your project going. And this happened to me in like December or something, November, December, and it was so freezing cold, and it was snowing. It was a lot of snow, and you know, the chemicals is not supposed to be like really cold, and I didn't have water in the house in this. I mean, this, yeah. So it's I had to mix everything in my house, drive a car up there where I wasn't allowed to park, so I got so many tickets, and so it was a really struggle, this project. But it was, when I took it down, it was, I really, you know, missed it. And I've been planning like since then to build a new one or just have one, or build one on a hanger that I could just drive around. But you know, it's easier said than done. So yeah, this is the same. So I can show you how this project developed. So this was how it looked like in the park and how it was as when it was finished. While it was still up, I did one show at the museum in the south of Norway. So here I worked with this very common plastic chairs. There was actually a small city in Norway, Stavanger, which is close to Kristiansand, actually banned those chairs at restaurants serving outside because they thought it was so ugly. So this is called, the stable of chairs is called Ivory Tower, and it's I built leftover materials from the sculpture in the park, because the sculpture was at this moment still there. So this was just as a kind of a satellite to the, and it was in the same city. So it had like the main, it's the same shape as the sculpture, and all the images with the black and whites are taken with Pupil, with the sculpture. And I continued the cyanotype project as well. So for this is like a mix of my kind of inspiration from both Anna Atkins, but also Julia Margaret Cameron, who also kind of, she did more, of course, portraits, and she dressed up, you know, her relatives, and but both these two women were pioneers. I mean, they were like in photography and in the history of photography. But I found it so interesting, like when, you know, men go to the highest mountain with their camera and equipment, they use the garden kind of as their studio. So this was a continuation of this idea. Yeah, and then the plastic chairs were also kind of the main motives in the cyanotypes as well. So for the years that I had this camera in the sculpture in the park, this was my main camera, which was also very kind of, it's strange for me to think about this now, but at the moment it was kind of really hard to kind of have this to put this kind of idea or like rules in my own art, like now you're going to work with this is your project. And it was very strange for me. I don't know why right now when I'm thinking back on it, I don't really know why it was so difficult, but it was something to do with the aesthetics as well, that it was something very it was very, I don't know how to say it, but it was kind of hard to accept it in a way. So it was but I think it's good that you in your art also it's not supposed to be easy like all the time. And then
Linn, I have a quick question. So the black and white photographs were made with the sculpture as a camera obscura?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever you wanted to make a photograph, you would have to stage it in front of the sculpture in the park.
Yeah.
That's
yes. So it was a lot of, restrictions on myself, and also I couldn't move the camera. So it was just one kind of angle. It was just this way, and it was just, there is this tree in the back, there is, the lawn in the front. It's not like I had to bring, like in my medium format, I do, it's like, I find the objects, I walk around and I found, or like I see things and I go back and I photograph it, or like somehow also, of course, stages. But this was like, which is the way that I'm working. But in this project, I had to bring everything, plan everything, which is also a very good, just to mix up the way you work. Like you just turn everything around in a way, and you have to bring the motive to the camera, not the other way around in a way. So I was invited to Kunstnerforbundet in Oslo. They have this main hall with lights above in the ceiling. It's a very nice room, and it's so for me this was a really big an important project. So and this was at the same time as the sculpture park had to come down. So what I did was that I took the shell in a way of the camera, and like a big puzzle, I think it was 11 or 12 pieces. I cut it up, and then it was transported to Oslo, and I put it up again, but just the shell, like no floor, no ceiling, no walls on the inside, just the like empty shell. That was the camera, and you can see where I put the lenses. And then I showed not only, but one of the photographic projects that I will show you. So yeah, around one of the, I can talk a little bit about the photographs before, but I think at the end of this presentation of this show, you can see every one of them in close up. But the black and white or the camera obscura images in this show, which became the main project of the camera obscura, was that I photographed all the people around me, like my family, my friends, my colleagues, but they all blurred out. So you cannot see any of their faces. I think the English title, I usually only use Norwegian titles, but the English title, I think, is Soft Creature. So it was kind of a little bit by accident, but also inspired by the wildlife cameras. You always see like this, the very rare snow leopard, you know, the images of the very rare snow leopard, but you always just see this, you know, this the cat is just so close to the lens, everything is blurry, maybe you see like this tail in focus on the back, you know. So they all, you can, the thing is that they are really recognizable if you know them, but every face is blurred out, and in behind you can see like the trees and everything is completely sharp. So I did the sharpening was easy for me to do inside the camera, and how I moved the paper between the lens, and so yeah, you can, it's easier when we, yeah, here you see some of them, and I have some close-ups you can see. So they're all blurred out portraits, which was also, yeah, well, inspired kind of this Julia Margaret Cameron way of, you know, photographing her family and friends and dressing them up and kind of deciding who they would be in a way. I also did some adjustments to the sculpture, and kind of because this show was also called pupil, and it had like this, the round shape was kind of something that, a motive that you can see throughout the show. So I also cut out an even bigger like circle from the sculpture, put it out, land it against the wall. You can also see the images on the wall. If you can see it, is like this, it's a back where the sun has made like a, it's called Sun Disk, the title of this image. So there's this bathing suit taken off, and you can see like this round circle. So the whole show had a lot of, you know, circles, which was, you know, the camera, the eye, the pupil, everything is kind of the same. Here is more of the portraits. I also used the inside of the sculpture / camera studio, and I hang images also on the inside. So in the show, it's kind of how I use photography, like my whole vocabulary in photography is, you know, the black and white and color medium formats. It's the cyanotypes, it's the camera obscura. And also in this show, I started to work with negatives, or like inverted images, and also filters on my medium formats. So the kind of, on this show, I kind of was on my way to the next project in a way. So yeah. And also I showed this, this is inside, I showed this, a version of this project with the sculpture and everything in, no, what is it called? Fotografie Forum Frankfurt, in Frankfurt, a year ago actually. And the whole sculpture was transported to Frankfurt, and I guess, and I hope that's the last time I'm gonna do the installment. It's very big, it's very heavy, it's very dirty, and it's but I'm happy that it's gotten around a little bit, traveled some. So here you can see some of the other images again, but in this show, shown inside this sculpture. this just to see how this was a wasp. What do you call it? Yeah, like a like you can see if you walked inside the sculpture, you can also see like the whole show outside. See if I have some of them. Yeah, and here I also, for the first time, then introduced this inverted image that was kind of, for me, developed through this garden project and through this camera obscura and the cyanotype. My medium format images kind of developed further in a way. So this was like the first glimpse of something that I've now, the last couple of years, have been working much more with. So this was called Le Tigre, I think. And here you have the portraits. So this is the camera obscura portraits of my friends, colleagues, and family. And like I said, for me, they are so familiar. I know exactly who they are. It's like they feature everything. You need so little to see kind of a face or something that is recognizable in a way. This is my youngest daughter. So I think there were 13 of these that I showed, but the whole project and my archive of these images are many, many more. So, and this is, the sun disk, the skin as kind of a developing paper in a way. The way the sun, as the same way as in the cyanotype, you need, in the beginning, when you use, like in the developing the cyanotypes, you put them outside, you use the sun. So it's kind of a link to the cyanotype and the way these were developed. And this was the first time this image was called Day for Night. And this is something that I have been working a lot more with the last couple of years. And it's Day for Night is like the filter often used in older and maybe not so good cowboy films, where you needed to film at night, but you didn't have the equipment or the resources or the money to do this. So you filmed in broad daylight. Usually the sun was up, so you put on this filter, a blue greenish filter, so that it would look like it was night. And I found it so nice because, in these films you have, because the sun is so strong, it's like you have, but in these films, when with the filter, the sun becomes the moon, but the moon is so strong, it gives like these long shadows from the horses, riding in the desert. And a lot of my medium format portraits are, there's a lot of landscapes, there's a lot of objects, there's a lot of weather, it's a lot of like atmospheric conditions, which is, I think, a result of me working mainly in the north of Norway, and we have a lot of weather, a lot of landscape, and so this is like if you look very closely into the fog, there is this bridge going into the fog, and on the back there is this mountain. you get a very nightly feeling, but it has this also broad, sunny light in it. And of course, the cyanotypes and the black and whites. Yeah. And then, let's see. This is just, I've just taken, shows that I think represents. So this is not like everything I've done, but I think it's like when you see the change and see how this develops. So this was a group show I was part of, curated by Melk, which is a gallery in Oslo who works mainly with photography, and I had done a lot of shows with them. This was a group show where this technique of the day for night filter kind of really I don't know, became a really kind of important part of my work. This is a medium format, but it's an inverted negative, and it also has this day for night filter. But at the same time, it's the same way that I use kind of, the motives are kind of the same in a way. It's just I think like I always said like photography is kind of the joy of imagining things. Like it's something that is, for me, is like something that it's already there. I just need to find it in a way. And it's like discovering shapes in landscapes, or discovering shapes and beings kind of in objects that's just there. And this is from my childhood home, like something, I think like the places and the areas that you walk through like every day, for me, that's where I find most of my my images, in the same places where I walk around. Like I've been photographing in the same place for 16 years, I just found out. And it's like it never stops being like I find new things. And I think that's just, yeah, it's like a research that you do, but you like, it's a really thorough, it takes, I don't know if it will stop. I've been also doing like every travel I'm doing, I bring my camera, I'm in new places. It's like, but still it's like the same streets like I photographed for so many years is where I found my best images. This is not my hometown, this is in Lisbon, but all the others are. So this was one of the shows where kind of the filters and the inverted images and was really kind of established in my work. There we have the chairs again. There you have chairs. So there's a lot of, many of the objects is things that is coming again and again, that kind of something that I've obviously is looking for when I walk around. So, and again, you can see some of the installations that are made in the show. This is something that I worked a lot with in earlier, like 2013, and I was at the Kunstlerhaus Bethanien in Berlin, and I did a big show with this climbing ropes and objects and clay, and But I didn't show you this, so it's not easy to see the link, but it's something that has also been a part of my practice for quite many years. So I think I have a couple more like shows to show, so just stop me if there's not enough time. Or this was a solo show I did in 2018, also together with Melk, which is the project space in Oslo for photography, contemporary photography. For this show, I went a little bit up in size, which was, but now they're even bigger. So they just become, yeah. So this was the solo show called Captain's Cabin. Just gonna show you the images. So again, you can see like the mix of the black and white, the inverted color images, the filtered, the inverted and filtered. So there's like no rules now. There was a lot of boats in this show. Yeah, and again with the ropes and the objects. So this space is quite small, and this was also a little bit why I called it, the captain's cabin. It had like this, this kind of boat feeling in a way. It's a basement. But it was it's a very nice space to exhibit, and they're really, these guys who runs it, they're doing really interesting and nice shows. So after this show, the same guys invited me together with Henny Onsdag Art Center in Oslo to be part of this photography triennial, the first edition in Oslo. No, it's outside Oslo. For this show, I showed, like, for the first time, only photography. I showed 4 photography, but it was a big solo show. But it was kind of nice because I work with big series when I work with my photographs. So I think it was kind of good to have to choose 4 of them and let them kind of be the main characters in a way, and let them have their space. So part of making shows or making works is also to kill your darlings and let the other one wait, and let these one have their light. And so I showed 4 images. Yeah, like you can see there is similarities of how it's developed with the objects and the weather conditions and the filters. And the inverted images. So what I can say now is maybe when I was invited to do this project with the archive, for me it's, I mean, because I'm so kind of also inspired by photography, like historic photography and early photography, and before I've just was inspired by images that I saw. I never used any of those images. It was just something that was there, something I read about, something I saw as inspiration. But I do think that strangely, because I have my own archive with my own photographs, I think that when I got the chance to work with this archive, it was the first time that I could actually work with photography, with other, that was not mine, and I could use them. This was something that I was allowed to use. Let's see if I can show just all these. This is, let's see. So just to start, I think these are very big with the images that you sent to me. Okay. So when I was looking through the archive, it wasn't easy to kind of decide what to do in a way. It was so much, and somehow I just wanted to, to have it as an album and to just look at it at some, for me it was like, but what can I possibly do with this? But I was kind of very drawn to the older photographies. So this is from 1919. It says written on the photographs. It's from the First World War. And of course, these Zeppelins are so fascinating. But I was thinking when I first saw it's like, oh, but this is so, of course, this is what I want to work with, but that it was maybe not cliche, but it was kind of, maybe it's too obvious. But I think that it was not many of these. It was 4 or 5, but they are so, I think they're so strange and they're so beautiful. And I think that they kind of has a lot of the things that I have in my photographs, which has this kind of something very quiet, but at the same time, there is this strange object which feels alive in a way. And you have the sky and something very absurd about the whole. But I think it also is a lot to do with the quality of the images, which I found really, really nice. And like this one is just so beautiful. And like, if you didn't have the text written on I mean, it's easy to just take away, but anyhow, it has this, this object, it's center in the middle of the image. It's, this is, wow, it's, okay, so this is what I did. I just put them all together in one image. And I made 2 versions of them. And this one with almost like this light version of the day for nights, and a more like sepia version of it, which I think makes them more abstract in a way. Because now it becomes, all of them become its own shape, but at the same time it's, but I don't know, because I have seen the originals. It's not easy to, I can't really, now I've shown the originals, but that's not always a good idea, because it's kind of, the nice thing is, to see just the work, and because this is what I want to show, but now I actually already just shown everybody everything, so the secret is out. I don't know.
I was wondering if you thought of them as sculptures in a way, because they really have this sculptural quality somehow.
Yes, absolutely. I think so too. And it's the, I think it's like, it's the very, very strange shape of them. And like I said, like in many of my photographs and in many of my sculptures, there's a lot of dwellings, there's a lot of houses, there's a lot of fartes, like boats or cars or things that you can, move around in. So for me, this is like the boat and the car and the house in one shape, in a way. Yeah. I don't know if you have any questions. I think it's yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking that you also thought of this undertone when creating these collages, that this tranquility is also a sign for something that could not have been anticipated in the future, that there's also this meeting of two techniques, of two apparatuses. On one hand, there is, of course, photography itself in its, let's say, early incarnation, but also the aviation and what the meeting of these two dispositives, technology brought.
What technology?
I mean, photography and aviation, early aviation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was kind of, I did, when I, because when I saw these images, everybody's thinking about, catastrophe and Hindenburg and, things going really, really wrong. And of course, that's why I said, like, that's why I was thinking, like, okay, but this is too obvious. I can't work with these images. And but then I started to read a little bit about these, and I was just shocked of how many, successful journeys that were made across the Atlantic with these Zeppelins during I don't know how many, 10, I don't know, 14 years of, traveling across the Atlantic. I mean, it's kind of course, you never heard about this because of the catastrophes and the, but the link between early aviation and photography, I must admit, I haven't really kind of, I don't know, that I think it's very beautiful that you have these images that capture something. I mean, I found a lot of other images online, like almost, I mean, of, Zeppelins, other parts of Europe. It's really kind of, I mean, the photographs made in these days were really kind of high quality photographs. And I think, like, the technology at this moment, and also with the Zeppelins, that it was kind of successful in a way, but it was slow and it was huge and it didn't take that many passengers. So of course it wouldn't kind of survive. the strange thing is that it developed, kind of into aviation that was kind of more successful and into airplanes that you have today. But photography went, the other way around and had some years with really bad quality, images, because it was going to be made easier for everybody, and for everybody to use. But at this point, it was, yeah.
But what about now when it comes to photography? And because the camera that you use, we can also think of it as, very big, too heavy, too complicated to carry around. It can only make a few images, as opposed to the new digital technology, which is...
Yeah, I mean, I'm really stuck with my camera because that's the only camera I can use, and the strange thing is that my way of looking has developed with this camera. So for me, it's not an option. I have tried, I must admit, to and I bought so many digital cameras because now it's expensive. I developed them, but even now, because I have to scan the negatives to get a good print when I print them in, big format prints. And the scanners are like extremely expensive. I had to rent to get into this labs that have them and scan on my own, or the lab who prints them scan them. But they were not made anymore. And I've just realized, I was in Oslo this last week, that's probably going to be the end of analog photography if they don't make the really, really good scanners anymore, because you have so many, you have the film, you have the camera, you need to have somebody to fix the camera when it gets broken, or when it's get out of focus, or when you need to calibrate the lenses, so I think I'm gonna use my camera and use the analog camera as long as it's possible, and then maybe I would just do a camera obscura. I don't know, but it's I have two of the Mamiya cameras, and they're not that big, and what's really nice about them is that it's not a mirror inside. It has the closing is in the house of the camera, so you can kind of use it as you can take like snapshots with the camera, and it still gets really, really sharp. So for me, this is the perfect camera, and I think it's still so much better than any of the digital camera that I tried. So it's not an option to think about going digital, for me at least. Yeah.
Linn, it seems that you prefer this kind of old stories regarding photography, right? I mean, all techniques were using the films, the mediums, cyanotypes, and so on. But in the same time, it seems that for you, there's no actual difference between black and white photography and colored photography. I mean, somehow you tend to erase both the details from your frames. I mean, the details that you don't want them to be part of the frame, right? But also the difference between colored and black and white. I mean, speaking about the medium, all photos have the same size. All of them, they become this kind of beautiful, very precious, abstract, actually views of your reality, let's say, or imagination. So for you, it's not, I mean, it was not necessarily a question, but also a comment. And for me, for you, it seems that there's no tension between the two of them. I mean, between colored and black and white, or
no, I think that's true, because for me it's that's something that I decide when I take the image. It's not like I never decide like now I'm gonna do a project and it's gonna be in black and white, or it's gonna be in color, it's gonna be in filters or inverted, or I have my, like I said, I have like developed a vocabulary of photography, and I use them all kind of as I want, but also how it suits the image, and also as a whole, as a series, you know. So for me also, I have like a bag full of color and black and white film, and which one I choose is like, it's a praxis that is kind of, it's something like now I learned to almost see the image as I take it, if you know what I mean, because I know the camera so well, and I know, you know, I know the weather, I know I know that my color images taken in the summer, it's really bad. I know that I only work with color in October, November. So it's like, this is just something that I've, you know, learned about my own practice, you know. It's and it's something that I haven't, you know, I don't know enough about this yet. It kind of develops as I develop and do, but there's no like, everything is allowed in a way, nothing is. And like you said, I also work, like one image has its own frame, so it doesn't have, if I do a show, I look at this image, this photograph, and it's like, okay, this is together with all the other ones, but it's also just its own, and it needs to be perfect as it is, and with the frame that fits this color tone, or this, you know, black and white tone, or the motive, or, you know. So it's they're all individuals, but they also has this strong connection to each other in a way.
We are also opening the conversation to questions. I don't know if there are any from our viewers.
No, nothing yet.
Nothing yet. I also wanted to comment a bit on what I tried to summarize. Well, my impressions after seeing many more images of your work. It seems to me that there's this often this combination, which this is maybe a cliche, between fleetingness and permanence in a lot of what you do, and it also seems to me that photography is somehow a tool for investigating this perpetual link between subjectivity and landscape or surroundings. So yes, I just wanted to comment and to ask you if you think that this impression of mine is
No, I think absolutely that's very nice, and it's also always so nice to have someone else kind of see your work and kind of be able to make links between all these different, because like there's a lot of very different images and there's a lot of very different techniques.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, they have like a very strong link, but they're not supposed to be it's this very it's just to find the balance in a way to be generous in a way as an artist, but at the same time, you know, don't be don't you know, show too much of everything all the time. So it has the, the balance is something that I'm always, because I guess the way I work with photography is that I have if I work, like now I work on a show, and it's a big solo show, and I'm gonna show, I'm at least making 14 photographs, and they're like 120, 1 meter, so they're quite big, and I think that's a lot of images, but at the same time I've been working with maybe 150 or something images, and trying to all the time cut down, and you know, to see what's left of this, you know, the project in a way. So it's kind of, it's a balance of trying to explain, not explain, but to have a complete project, but at the same time leave something there to, that is not kind of, I don't want to explain or you know, over explain, you know, the project with too many images and with too many, you know, objects which can be looked at as symbolic objects, or you know, hints of what can. At the same time, I think, like I said, I think like for me it's important also to be generous in my way of working, in a way, or showing, I mean, generous in a way of what I want to show.
So are there any
Alexandra, do we have any other comments or questions? No? We can't hear you.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so the talk is will be available on YouTube. It stays there, so everyone who didn't have the chance to see it can look for it later. I think it's really great that now we've been able to better grasp the tone and the specific nature of your intervention, and I am very happy that we were able to collaborate. And your talk sparked a lot of ideas on my mind. We are all the time confronted with you know, this ocean of images that we are working with during this period, next year as well. Yes, I feel really stirred and inspired by what we saw and what we heard from you.
Thank you.
So thank you, Linn, so much.
Thank you.
And we invite everyone to come and see Linn's collages within the current exhibition at Salonul de Proiecte.
Thank you so much, and I wish that I could have come to Bucharest and seen the show and seen the space and met you all. That would have really been great.
Yes, it's true, but maybe it will happen sometime.
Yeah. Let's hope so. Yes.
Let's hope so. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Linn.
Linn.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
Cheers.